Hi everyone, I'm David McLaughlin, and over the last year I've taught more than 30,000 students in project management and to get their PMP certification. And over the last 30 days, the Project Management Institute has released the latest version of their project management body of knowledge, the PMBOK Guide, and that's the PMBOK Guide 8th edition. It's a draft that they've released for everyone to review, and I've reviewed the PMBOK 8th edition and I've given my feedback, and now I just want to share with you how we got to where we are now, so the 6th editions and the 7th editions and different versions in between, and then just share my actual thoughts and feedback on the 8th edition and how I came to those things. So this is going to be a bunch of fun, and it all started with the PMBOK 6th edition, or in recent history in 2017, and this one is my favorite. So still my favorite after nearly 10 years. It helped me deliver projects in my own career. It really changed the way I delivered projects because it was such a step-by-step methodology, and it really included everything that you needed to know at that time. It started off with 3 things at the beginning of the book: your project foundations, so the why we need projects, what a project is, the project environment, so where we might be delivering projects and when, and then the role of the project manager, what we do and how we do it. And then it went into what we now know as the 49 processes of project management. And these are shown just on one page, but it goes into a lot of detail for each of these. And it's basically a process from start to finish on how to run a project. And again, like I said, I found this so useful for my own career for managing projects. For each of these things as well, it had key concepts. For example, so developing a project charter, it had the key concepts there. Any tailoring considerations, so when we might need to change it and what we might need to change. Considerations for agile, which I thought was extremely useful. And so it's not just about predictive. There's agile methods that we're going to use when developing a project charter or defining activities or planning communications. And then trends and emerging practices. So I won't go through all these 49 processes, but just know that it's basically like a project. We start with a project charter, we plan with a project management plan, we go through scope, schedule, cost, communications, risk, then we manage changes and with our change control process, we develop our team with our people skills, and ultimately the project sponsor validates and accepts the scope that they paid for, and we close the project or the phase. So that's a really quick rundown of my favorite book, the PMBOK 6th edition. And then we went in 2021, the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. And this really changed things. It changed the way that it laid out project management. And it did it with project performance domains, and then a section on tailoring, which basically was tailor everything or anything that you need to. So that's how that is summed up. Pretty easy. But then one of my favorite sections, the models, methods, and artifacts. So it had organizational change models like ADCAR or ProSci, for example. These are becoming really, really popular. And then leadership models, complexity models like VUCA, or the Kuhneven model, or the Stacy matrix. And those were also really cool. So I really appreciated all of these models because, especially with complexity, it shows why projects are so hard and the methods that we can use to deal with that complexity. So that was great. Then we had all of the logs and plans and some estimating methods in there as well. And that was all separated out quite nicely. So I appreciated that. But for the project performance domains themselves, then you've got stakeholder with your communication and engagement processes, team leadership and management, development life cycles, agile and waterfall, planning with our schedule and our budget, communications and resources, doing the actual project work. So with your triple constraint of scope, schedule, and cost, and which one are we prioritizing there? So do we need to get it done on time, for example, or is scope the most important thing and we can blow out the schedule a little bit? Then we got procurement in there, delivering with our scope and decomposing the scope. So it's sort of all over the place. It's not really in order, but it does seem to be all there. Measurement, so measuring our project, and then uncertainty again, which I really, really liked with VUCA and the Stacy matrix and all those sorts of things. And so that was sort of in between in 2021. Now, each of these, as we're moving into the current PMBOK guide, each of these has a standard, so a project management standard. And in the standard for the 7th edition, we had 12 principles, and I thought these were quite good. So be a good steward, focus on delivering value, tailor your approach, optimize risk responses to keep our project safe, build quality into the processes and deliverables so that we're not making mistakes and we're finding mistakes, navigate that complexity, again, be resilient and adaptive, and effectively engage with our stakeholders and create a collaborative team environment. These were all really good. Now, the change that we're looking to go to, again, just in draft, so this is all pending feedback, and I think it's heading in a nice direction. The PMBOK 8, we've got moving down to 6 principles, so as we go into 2025, potentially. And they've called it the project manager's mindset, which sounds familiar. You know, that's been a term out there for quite some time now. But it's just 6 principles now. Adopt a holistic view, focus on value again, so that's still there. Being an accountable leader, so demonstrating leadership behaviors. Embedding quality, again, we've got that one still there as well. Integrate sustainability within all project areas. Now, I thought that was interesting. Sustainability, so environmental sustainability or sustainability of our product or project. That's sort of a new one. Pretty interesting stuff. And building an empowered culture. And then also in the standard, as we're moving into the PMBOK 8, where it's included those 3 things at the beginning of the PMBOK 6. So the project foundations, the project environment, and the role of the project manager. So it has those things. They've come back. Now, as we move into the PMBOK 8th edition draft ideas, like we said, in the standard, they've brought back those 3 things, the environment and the role of the project manager. And now it's also brought back the idea of the process, so from start to finish. But as you will notice, it's a much smaller, shorter, more succinct process, I guess we'd call it, at this stage. And in each one of these things, again, it has the key concepts, just like in the PMBOK 6, the tailoring considerations, so things that we might change or need to change. And now it's added interactions with other domains. So look, in my opinion for this one, everything affects everything else in a project. It's a system, and that's why it's so complicated and it can be so difficult, and it's so hard without a good process to handle it. So in my opinion, you don't really need this. It's just everything affects everything else. So, I mean, you could really sum it up like that. It's not that complex. And then for each one, it also has check results, which is something that they took from the PMBOK 7th edition. At the end of each of those sections in the PMBOK 7th edition, they had a check results section, which tells you how you know if you're doing well. So is this happening? Then you're doing well, basically. And I think that's a really good addition, actually. So that's really, really good. Now, at the end of the PMBOK 8, currently, again, in the draft, it's separated out tools and techniques. So it doesn't have all of the things. As we're going through it, and again, instead of project charter, it's got just authorized project initiation. So that's one way to put it, I guess. Not quite as straightforward. But let's say we're doing that process. It just has the details of it. So the inputs, the tools and techniques, and the outputs, which I think is a really great way to do the process, by the way. Very, very straightforward and handy. But it doesn't have all of those things included in this section. It pulls them all out, and it has them all in one go at the end, all grouped together. So that's similar to the process group's practice guide currently. And look, it's, some people like that, some people don't. It's one way to do it. It also has pulled out the inputs and outputs so that it describes them all in one go at the end. And then also at the end in the appendix, it's got a section on PMOs, which we had in the PMBOK 7th edition, which is pretty good. Again, we need to know PMOs, the role of the PMO, what a good one looks like, what a bad one looks like. It has a new section on artificial intelligence and AI, which it's yet to be determined if that's a fad or not. Basically, you can use it for a lot of things. It has a really cool section here on the use cases for AI in project management, which I think is an awesome idea. So, great job, PMI, on that one. And lastly, moving on, before I get stuck on that one, procurement. This is interesting. They don't have procurement in the process anymore. They took it out and put it in the appendix. So my feedback here would be to take procurement and put that back into the processes. Now, I've drawn all over this, but I have my feedback here. So first of all, for each process, I would add quality back into the processes. Why would I do that? Because quality teams, you actually often have a whole quality team on a project, on a decent sized project, whether it's for software or whether it's for something physical like a house, a building, or anything else. You'll actually have a team of quality people. So for that reason, I think it should have its own knowledge area still, not just be within scope. And then they took out the agile considerations for each of these processes. And again, I would actually include more agile considerations for each of these processes. So agile has definitely gotten bigger over the last 4 years, certainly over the last 8 years. I would add more agile into all of these. The next one I had was, we've got validating the scope. So remember how I said in the previous process, the project sponsor will accept the deliverables and say, yes, this is what I wanted. Yes, it passes all my quality checks and balances. If there was a quality section. So once it passes all of that, then project sponsor says, yes, I accept it. But currently that's happening in execution. Whereas previously that happened pretty much just before you close a project, which makes more sense to me. So you accept the deliverables, you make sure they go into operations and they're accepted by the organization, and then you close the project or the phase. So I put that feedback. That's a strange move for me. I would also include change management. So like I said, with PMBOK 7, all of those models, it was just like extra nice stuff. And so this is sort of the stuff that they had. ADCAR in there, the Cotter's 8 steps to change, which I thought was really good. The Virginia Satir model on change and the Bridges transition model. This stuff was really, really cool and a nice addition, I thought. So I think putting that back in, maybe somewhere in the appendix, even at the minimum, would be nice. And then also all of the different information on VUCA and complexity and managing complexity. I would probably include that either in the standard or again in the appendix here. So I don't mind the shortened or the smaller process groups. It's not too bad. I still would include procurement back in the process groups. I'd include quality back in the process groups. I'd make sure that we validate before we close the project or phase. And then I'd add a lot more agile considerations for each single process. And then really, that's probably the majority of it. If I had my way, I would put all of the detail within each of the processes and not pull them out right at the end. But if I was going to pull them out at the end, I would separate them in the same way as the PMBOK 7 over here, where we had models, methods, and artifacts. So that was, if we're going to separate them at the end, that's a really nice way to separate all of the tools and techniques and things that we use. It's really, it's an easy way to find it, and it's an easy way to manage it and to learn it, I think. So that is all my feedback, and that's also a really brief overview of the PMBOK Guide 8th edition and how it compares to PMBOK Guide 7th edition, 6th edition, 5th edition, way back when, the Process Groups Practice Guide, and the list goes on and on and on. And again, if you're studying this, I just have to salute you. It's wonderful stuff. Like I said, it truly helped my career. It changed the game for me delivering value. I was delivering almost nothing in a team. I learned the process steps in the PMBOK Guides 6th edition, and I went through it front to back, learned everything that I needed to learn, and all of a sudden, we turned our team around and delivered a product that went from a 25% increase to a 75% increase in basically in customers. So just a huge benefit to the company, which is what projects are all about. Anyway, that's enough of me waffling on. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I also hope and wish you the best for your own study. I know that it can be difficult, and I know that it can be hard. When you study every day and you do something every day, you will get better. And that's why I truly believe that you can pass your own PMP exam and get the benefits that you need when you're delivering your own products and your own projects. It will help you, and the things that you're doing are the right things. Keep going. Do not give up. I definitely believe in you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.